Beginning the current Daf Yomi Shabbos Daf Ayin Test. Begins 7 lines down at the top of the Yomid. Our shiur continues with the theme of the previous Mishnah, which we're discussing the theme of this parak, which is Amaitzi. We're discussing taking out solids and liquids, and then talking about different objects. Our shiur is co-sponsored by Kalzich and Yecheskel, Torah Anytime, Daf HaChaim, and we begin the current Daf. The Daf is going to be discussing basically the elements of that we mentioned in the Mishnah, and discussing the details regarding them. The first item we mentioned that we're going to discuss in today's Daf from the previous Mishnah was Ur. Regarding leather, it says Kedelasas v'chulu is the amount of leather that one could go ahead and cut from the animal's hide and make a kameya, make an animal. On that, Rav Nachman. Rav asked from Nachman, Hamaitzi Ur, if someone's carrying out leather, Bekama, how much hide do you have to carry out? Tibalai before it's Now, as Rashi explains, as he's going to answer him, that's the halacha of the Mishnah. It's only because he wanted to ask him a series of questions, so he started off with the more basic one, which, although it's an explicit Mishnah, he asked it him. So that's what he answered. He said this halacha of the Mishnah, that it's like Keditnan. He says like we learned in the Mishnah. Or the amount of hide is Kedilasa Kameya. When you take a piece of animal hide, you put that amulet, that writing inside of it, you hang it on the neck or whatever it is, that's the amount of leather to be liable, which is the amount to make a Kameya. Now that, says the Gemara, that Hama Abdoi, that of tanning the leather, Bekama, how much leather do you have to tan? One of the lamatas malacha is ibud, is tanning, where you take the hide and you make it into a piece of leather. Bekama, how much do you have to tan to be liable? Amalei Lishnai says no difference. I mean, just like I said, the amount of leather of Hitzah, which one malacha is the amount of how much you could use, what's the minimum that has significance, is that of a kameya, so too of the malacha of tanning, which also is making the piece of hide usable in leather. It's also no different. It's also going to be the shiur of a kameya. So then he says, the way Rashi explains the Gemara's question is le'abdoi. Let's say it's leather that was not tanned yet, but it stands to be tanned. It's something that could be used for tanning. But how much would be the measurement of carrying that out on Shabbos? On that Rabbi Shloimy, he says again, there's no difference. That of making the leather and of the carrying it out is also no difference. It's the size that needed to make an amulet. So Amalei, he says to Melishno, it's no difference. So on that, he says, Menot Temer, it says, and where do you know this from? That if something is fit to be for that, it's as if it is that itself. In other words, we had said, that was the opening halacha, that if you have it already, that it's tanned, it's already a piece of leather, so okay, it's usable, you could use it for a kameya. And that was saying, okay, regarding tanning it, how much is that going to be? Also the size of making an amulet. Then we're saying, let's say it's only lit abdoi. Let's say it's not even tanned yet. You can't really use it for an amulet. But we're saying, that's what Rav Nachman's answering to him, that since it would be able to be used as an amulet in that shiur, we give it that halacha right now. He says, where do you know that from? That concept, that something that's roll lekach, it's as if it is kitnan. It's the Mishnah on Daf Kofhei. The Mishnah says, a malabin, if someone whitens, these are all lamates malachas, which he whitens the wool, or vamanapets, or he disentangles it, or he dyes it, he makes it a certain color, or he spins it into thread. Shiuri, the measurement for these malachas, what's considered significant in the production of wool to be considered a malacha? It's kimaloi roichim, it's like the full width of hasit. The sit is the separation that is between the index finger and the middle finger. That distance, that kafel, double, which essentially is two sits, double the amount between the index finger and the middle finger, that's going to be the shiur of these malachas. Now, and says the Mishnah further, basically, if someone weaves two threads, shiur kimaloi roichim as sit there, the measurement is like the full width of a sit, which is machlekes in Girsais, if it's hasid hakafel, the double, or not. Taisus wants someone to infer one way or the other, say it's not necessarily. But one thing is, we see one thing, says the Gemara. Even since menapits, disentangling, and malabin, and whitening, since the letviyah koi, since its purpose is, where it's ultimately going to be used to spin, and this is the interesting part where the Gemara makes it sound like, shiur kitavi, so its measurement is like that of spinning, meaning we get this idea that malabin should be as a shiur of a sita kafel. We get this idea disentangling should be about of sita kafel. It's because a thread is only significant in that amount, which is the malach of spinning. And since malabin and manabits are all functions of ultimately roll lekach, it's making it to that end. So chanami, here also it's the same idea. Kivan de la abdikoi, since this piece of hide is destined for being tanned, so shiur can be open. Its measurement is going to be the same as a 10 piece of leather. So just like a tan, which is a worked out piece of hide, which is leather, its utility is what's the smallest thing you can use a piece of leather for. In Talmudic times was for an amulet, therefore that's significant. So even that which is not tanned and you can't even use it, but since it could be it's that measurement, we give it that shear already now, just like we see by the halacha of the Mishnah of Kafei, that Menapitz and Malabin already has that shear of taiva of spinning, because it's destined for that. Then Rav asked him another question. He says, let's say this piece of hide is not destined to be tanned. Bekama, how much would be the shear of carrying that on Shabbos? Amalei says again, Loishla says it doesn't make a difference, even if it's a type of hide that is not even destined to be used in leather. The Mepharshim do discuss that. Why would that be? But therefore, since this is a hide, which the measurement is when it is destined to be for leather, it has that shear of kameya. Here, even when it's not destined to be, we'll also have that same shear of a kameya. But now the Gemara asks the basic principle that says the Gemara, is there really so as the principle that you're saying you bring a raya from Mishnah of Kafei, that there's no difference if it's tanned or not tanned? Since if it wasn't tanned, it could be tanned, so it has the same shear as the amount of leather that could be made for a kameya. Is that really so? We don't differentiate in it between if it's tanned or not? But the Gemara is from the following brisa. Brisa says, if someone carries out on Shabbos herbs that have already been soaked, which what they do is you take the herbs, you soak it, and then it creates a mixture that you could go ahead and dye. You take the dyes come from plants. So on that says the brisa, what's the shear of being liable for that soaked herbs? It's the amount that you go ahead and dye a sample, in other words, very little, just to show as a sample, which you have samples, you take the smaller size, you don't want to waste it on samples, but production companies know you have to have a certain amount delegated for samples. The amount that you could dye for a sample, which is li'ira, which is the measurement of that you need for the bobbin of a weaver, which is that they would close their tube, which had the warp wheel of thread put inside of it. That's how small you need for the dye. Now, that's regarding the shear of herbs that have already been soaked, which is like what we call in regards to leather ma'abed. It was already tanned, it's already been processed. Here, when it's already processed, this is the shear. But whereas the ilu b'samam she'ena sharuyin, regarding, however, herbs that were not soaked yet, it's not in the Mishnah later on of Petesim and Beis that says klipi agazim, the husks of nuts, which it's a moist husk that's on the shell of the walnut, or the klipi remainim, or the pomegranate peels, or satis, which is a certain type of plant called safflower, or poo, or the madder plant. Regarding all these different things, although they're not edible, they're used. They would tzvay ben beged cotton. You could take from these growths. You could go ahead and use it as a dye for a small garment, lefi savacha, that's for the top of the woman's head. Which is what they used to do is they would take a small little garment and put a small piece of cloth and put it in the middle of the woman's head. But one thing is that this measurement is larger than the measurement that we said when it's already been processed. You see that obviously it's not the same. You said when it's already been soaked and it's already like a dye, then you need it only for that which is very small, which is a sample. Yet you're saying if it wasn't soaked yet, you needed that it could be used to create dye that's large enough to go ahead and dye the small cloth that's on top of the woman's head. That's larger. So you see there is a discrepancy between before and after production. Says the Gemara, we had learned on that, and the Gemara is going to give the same answer for many different questions, the same principle. Because the Gemara says, we learned on that Allah, it says, the reason over there is because the person's not going to go through the effort. We had this concept in the previous stuff too. The person's not going to go through the effort to soak herbs, to go ahead and dye a sample for the bobbin. And that is, if he's going to soak herbs, he's going to soak it the amount that's going to be larger, the amount that you could use for that cloth on top of the woman's head. So therefore, that's why there's a discrepancy. But as Rashi explains regarding leather, a person would go through the effort to tan a piece the size of making an amulet. And therefore, that's the case with significance before it's tan. And also, once it is tan, less than the kamei is not chashuv. So therefore, there's no discrepancy between before and after it was tan. In contrast, over there, a person's not going to go through the effort. It's not so significant. Yes, once you have the dye, then it would be even for something smaller, like we said, li'ira, like for that of a sample. But if it wasn't yet to create the dye, a person wouldn't go through the effort. But again, in intrinsic, it really is the same before and after. But if the effort's not worth it, therefore a person wouldn't do it, and therefore wouldn't be significant. That's a difference over there by the case of the herbs. Similarly, the Gemara asks another similar question. But you have the seeds of a garden. They make made the zerina before they're planted when they're really seeds. So it's not, we learn the Mishnah later on, the Sadeh Manaf that says, zerina gina, the seeds of a garden. So there's a machlekes what the shear is of the seeds to be chai for hitzah. The Tanna Kamma says pachas mikgregis. If it's less than, a little bit less than a dried fig, that's the measurement of hitzah. He says no chamish, it says when it's 5 seeds. Okay, that's before it's planted. But after the seed is planted, which is really what a growth is, it's a planted seed. So now we learn the Mishnah later on, Peyam Abayt, that says, Zevel, the shear for being chayiv for carrying out fertilizer, or v'cheladak, or thin sand, it's k'dei l'zavel b'klach shel kruv. It's the amount to fertilize 1 stalk of a cabbage. That's the Rebbe Kiva. Now this is where the Gemara's question of, you see that the seed after its process, which is what a stalk is significant even as 1. They say a different interpretation. It's the amount to fertilize out of a leaf. But one thing is, we have the same contradiction. On the one hand, you're telling me that by a piece of hide doesn't make a difference before it's processed, after it's processed. You see by seeds there is a difference. Before it's processed, we see it's a larger shear, let's say 5 seeds, a little less than the Gregors, but after it's planted, even 1 stalk is considered significant. So you see there is a difference before and after the processing. Here also says the Gemara, Hid Ma'alo, we learned regarding that halacha later on, Perek Bekiva, Rav Papa gives this answer. Rav Papa says, no, there's a difference. But again, that's unique over there, not to the case of herb. This that we said that 1 stalk is considered significant is disriya, because the seed has already been planted. Once it's planted, then there's a certain significance to it. Over here, that we're saying it has to be, let's say, 5 seeds, it delays zuri, wasn't planted yet. Oh, so why is that not so significant? Didn't you say 1 seed, you can make 1 stalk, it should be the same before and after? No. A person's not going to go through the effort of taking out 1 strand, which means, say, 1 seed, for planting, because you're not going to go through that effort. You'll only do it if you can plant 5 seeds, and therefore the shear of Haitzah is going to be different before and after, but not because of intrinsic. Intrinsic, it's the same, but it's because of the effort, which a person would go through the effort of leather. If it's not difficult, in the case, it's raining kingdom. Then the Gemara asks a similar type of question, I read tit. You have the halacha of clay. The mikmei, and we had this reference on the previous time. The mikmei the legavle, before you need the clay. So it's a few ingredients. There's the mud, there's the water, there's the sand, there's different things that you make. So before it's needed, before you create the clay, so time with the brisa, the might become Rabbi Shimon, this is what we're calling the previous stuff. Chama agreed Rabbi Shimon, but might say from Rishus Harabim, when you're carrying out wastewater to Rishus Harabim, although they generally hold the shear is less than Revius. Oh, there they agree Shashur and Revius. There like Rabbi Shimon says, and he holds all liquid, the measurement is going to be that of Revius. But we had asked regarding the halacha, what is it fit for regarding the wastewater? Oh, not above Rabbi Yirmiyah. It says, what do you not use wastewater for anything that's a house utility? But we said you could use it to make clay. You don't care what type of garbage water it is. You just need water to make the clay. Now, so therefore, you see the shear of the clay is the shear, that amount of water that you have revius for. On the other hand, but after the clay was already needed, you already have a piece of clay, Tanya in the brisa that says tit. What's the shear of significance of carrying out tit, clay on Shabbos? The last man pikor is the amount to make the opening of the crucible, which is very small. So you see that it is different. After it's processed, it's smaller than before it's processed. So the Gemara Hasan Nami there also, it's the same answer, like we said. The person not going to go through the effort to go ahead and knead a piece of clay, lastly pikor, to make the opening of a crucible. And therefore that's why before it's made, we say I have to have a revius of water. After it's already made, then the person is considered significant, that of a small thing, and really before them would also be. It just wouldn't go through the effort. Again, in contrast to the case of Ur, is like we said before, like Rav Nachman answered to Rava, that yes, before and after it's the same thing, because it does have the same significance, because you would use that amount of hide to make it amulet, therefore it has the halacha. The thing about says Tashma trying to bring a raya regarding this question, if before Ibn the same and after Ibn, from the following halacha. Said Shloisha Oyusay. There's 3 types of hides, meaning in the processes of hides regarding its status of leather and its regarding its shiur, there's 3 different stages. They're called matzah, the chayfa, the diphthera. What are these 3 things? So the Gemara explains. Matzah is kimashmoi, like its literal translation. What does that mean, literal translation? Like Rashi says, well, what is matzah? Matzah is something that has nothing more than what it is. It's just the water and the salt. You don't do any processes for the matzah. That's exactly what this piece of hide is. The loy maliach, it's not salted. It's not. They used to soak it in the mixture of flour and water. You didn't do that process. And they used to also fix it by grinding gall nuts and treating it with that. No, the matzah type of hide, nothing was done to that leather. It doesn't have any one of the three things. Now, the kama shiuri, and how much is the measurement of that piece of leather, of hide, which wasn't treated at all for the malacha of Eitzah and Shabbos? That says the Gemara Tani Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yehuda says is kedei lotzer by mishkelis ketan. That's the amount of the hide that you would use to wrap a small weight. And says the Gemara of the Kama, how much is that weight that you're wrapping with that hide? So Mabai, it says a riva de riva. It's a quarter of a litra. A litra is itself a quarter of something else. So saying a quarter of that litra, the pumbedisa, and now every country would have its own weight, its own currency. So a quarter of a litra that they had in pumbedisa. Because Rashi explains the way the merchants were, they used to wrap their weights of lead in a leather, in a piece of a hide, so that it shouldn't wear down because the metal is always getting rubbed away and it's going to diminish, and you want to keep it pure that weight. So we wrap it in a piece of hide. The measurement of this most untreated piece of hide is the larger shear of that of wrapping that of a small weight. Now, chayfa is a little bit more treated. It's the malich, it's salted, which that's part of the tanning process, as with the Gemara, as the Mishnah originally said, actually, molchay as one of the processes, and it took it out because it says really ma'abed. So it's salted, but But again, it still wasn't put with that flour and with the gall nuts. And for kamashir, how much is the measurement be carrying that type of a hide on Shabbos? It's a little bit smaller. Okay, now like we learned our Mishnah. Our Mishnah's halacha when it says of the hide is kedelas's kamei, is the amount of making an amulet that's a smaller measurement than wrapping that of the weight, and therefore that's the middle type of a shiur because it's a little bit more processed. Diphthera, which is more processed than those two, is the malech v'kamech. It was salted and it was treated with the flour. But v'le'af, it wasn't treated with the gall nuts, because the one that's treated with the gall nuts is actually was discussed on the base. Actually, when that's the one called cloth, that's parchment, which went through all that treatment process. But diphthera is more than the other two. That says the Gemara of Kamashir, how much is the measurement of carrying that on Shabbos? So that's actually the most stringent. That's the smallest of them all. It's the amount to write a divorce document. Mishnah in Gittin Daf Pei Manal says, what's the essence of the get? It has to say that line, you are permitted to every single man. It says his name, her name, the witnesses, and the date. And that's the smallest of all the measurements. That's the measurements for that of the diphthera. Okay, but says the Gemara, why are we introducing this? Because one thing is that we learned over here in this halacha was it said regarding matzah, which has not really treated at all. It says that so that piece of hide, what's it useful for? To be chai for the shiur b'tzah. It's the amount that you could wrap a small little weight. If Amar Bayin, he says, what is that? That's river the pumbedisa. It's a quarter of a liter of pumbedisa, which Taisus brings in the read bothered. Why are you bringing a Bayin over here? It's not relevant for the Gemara's question. The Gemara's question, however, is one thing we see is that the measurement of leather that was not treated is more than that of a kameya, meaning our Mishnah's halacha of a kameya, we said that's the middle one, that's that of the middle case of chayfa, we said that's the case of the Mishnah of So we see that that's the shiur making kameya. Now, whereas over here, we're saying that of matzah, which is the most untreated, that's untreated, and that is treated, matzah has a larger shiur. Wait a second, didn't you tell me that there's no difference between if it was mu'ubid or not, if it was tanned or not? Here we see clearly that there is a difference. Because the Mishnah says the which is the middle type, that's the one called chayfa, that's the shiur making kameya, and that is going to be smaller than that of matzah, which is to wrap a mishkeles katana. So you see there is a difference between if it's tanned or not regarding the shiur b'tzah. It says the Gemara Hasam over there is b'bishula. Now bishula doesn't really mean that it was cooked. As Rashi explains, B'shulim would say that it's still moist, meaning it's the matzah, the untreated hide, is literally as it was just skinned. The reason why it's called B'shulim, Rashi says, is like by cooking, which when you cook, there's liquid, or else it's considered roasting. It's still moist and wet. So when we're calling the hide B'shulim, it's to say it's still wet and it's not fit to be tanned. That's why it's not fit to be tanned. We're not going to treat it the same as when it's tanned. So therefore that's going to have the halacha as enough to lay lotzah by mishkas katana. But if it's dry and it's fit to be tanned, since it's fit to be tanned, so then it has the halacha like it's tanned, and therefore then yes, it's going to have the same halacha, even if it wasn't tanned. Then the Gemara asks another question. What's not? We learned the Mishnah second skim that says habeged. It talks about there regarding the laws of tumah. So a garment which is made out of wool or linen is shleisha shleisha. It's a measurement of 3 by 3 tefachim. L'midrash, that's the minimum for having tumah of medrash, which is regarding that of the zav, or zav is sitting on it. But actually, regards to maga regarding touching, that tumah of, let's say, tumas mes, is even by 3 by 3, which Rashi explains as 3 by 3 finger breadths. He was saying shleisha shleisha tefachim for medrash. The hasak, the sackcloth, which is made out of goat here, is dalad dal. The minimum measurement of that is 4 by 4 tefachim. Ha'ar, the leather, is hey al hey, is 5 by 5 tefachim. Map, instead of a reed mat, is vav vav, is 6 by 6 tefachim. And that says the Mishnah, that's bein lamedrash, bein lames. This halachic minimum measurement for tumah, for those elements, in contrast to that of the beged, is whether if it's for tumas medrash or whether for tumas mes. Now that says the Gemara B'Tanya, and we learned regarding that Mishnah of Brisa. The Brisa says ha-beged, basak, v'or, the garment, the sack, the leather, kashir l'tumah. The same measurement we're giving it for the minimum to be considered significant in the laws of tumah. Kach shir l'ayitzah. That's the same shir for the halacha of itzah on Shabbos. So what do we see from over here? We see that the or, which is not mu'ubid, which is not tanned, is going to have the halacha of 5 tefachim. Now the difficulty is our Mishnah said that when it's mu'ubid, when it's tanned, when our Mishnah spoke about or, it was talking about that it was already tanned, it was already worked through. It said that the shear is a kameya, which is a smaller shear than when it's untanned, which you're telling me or a piece of hide is 5 by 5 tefachim. So you see a contradiction regarding what is the measurement before and after that contradicts from Nachman. You see that before it's tanned, it's going to be the larger shear, 5 by 5 tefachim. After it's tanned, it's going to have the little smaller shear of that of a kameya. Says the Gemara, no, actually it's not difficult, because hahu, that Mishnah Masechet Skelim is b'kurtuv. It's talking about where you cooked the leather in hot water, where it got hard, and you see the leather couch over here in the picture, is to sit on it, or to cover different types of trays and beds, and to make a table. Oh, that's where it's not fit to go ahead and make it tan, because you boiled that hide. Whereas if it was raw, to go ahead and make it into tan, then yes, it would have the same halacha we have not answered, even if it wasn't tan, and it would be the shiva kamei. Here they're saying it has to be larger, is because it's boiled leather, which you cannot go ahead and tan anymore. That's why there's a discrepancy. Continue with the halacha of the Mishnah. Mishnah said that klaf, what's the minimum measurement for it to be considered significant as parchment, which parchment goes through all the different things, maliyach, kamiyach, it's going through all the different processes and treatments, and you treated the whole thing. Then you have parchment. So that minimum measurement is kedei lichlav la parsha katana. The amount to write a small parsha for the parshas of Tefillin, which is what's the smallest parshas we said in the Mishnah of the parsha of Tefillin, is the parsha Shema. The Shema, the Shema, Kachbei Kiviyachas, or the parshas. The smallest one is parsha Shema. That's the minimum measurement of Michai for taking out a cloth on Shabbos, because you wouldn't use a cloth for anything else, because it's very chashuv, it's very expensive, so you'd use it only for Tefillin. But the smallest parsha is already significant. However, the Gemara has a contradiction from the following brisa. The brisa says klaf v'duchsustus. Regarding parchment and duchsustus. Now, what's duchsustus? Duchsustus is the inner part of the klaf, which is if you took out the outer klipa, which actually that's why klaf is called klipa, a klaf, because it's from the word of klipa, it's the outer part of the leather. Which, as Taisi explains, there's a few different types of parchments that we refer to. Gvil is the full piece of the hide. You just remove the hair, and that's why we find the Gemara Baba Basa or Yeshiva Bacham learning Baba Basa in the beginning of Gimel Av. Gvil, what's Gvil is Avnei D'Lo Meshafian, is stones that weren't chiseled. In other words, it's not really fixed. It's just like a block, and that's why it's called Gvil, because Heroes Gvil is really not really finished the processes of the leather. It just had the hair removed. Now, when you split the leather hide into two, so the one that's facing towards the hair, that's the one that actually is called the klaf, and the inner part of that, which is facing towards the meat, that's called the sustus, because as Tosfos brings Rabbeinu Tam, in Greek they call basar, they call the meat sustus, and duch means place, like we play duch plan, that place. So then they call duch sustus. Duch means the place of duch sustus, of the meat. So again, duch sustus is the part of the hide that's facing on the inner part, and the klaf is the part of the leather. When you split the hide into two, the klaf is on the outer part. But be that as it may, the Bryce says regarding the klaf and the duchsustus, the minimum measurement for Yitzhak Shabbos is the amount to write under the mezuzah, which the mezuzah has 2 parashas, Shema v'Hayim Shemayim. So that contradicts what we said in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says the shear for klaf is that of just writing parasha Shema, and here you see that it's the amount of writing Shema v'Hayim Shemayim, which the shear mezuzah. I was saying, no, my mezuzah. What do we mean mezuzah? It means mezuzah shebet tefillin. meaning in the tefillin there's 4 different letters, meaning igros, meaning scrolls, for the 4 different parashas. And the shiur is in one of those, which is the parasha of Shema, which is the smallest of them all. So mezuzah doesn't mean the mezuzah we hang on the doorpost. Mezuzah is referring to the scroll, and it's the scroll in the tefillin. Says the Gemara, code the tefillin mezuzah. Do they call the scrolls in tefillin mezuzah? Says the Gemara, yes, and we can prove it because by the time we learn the brayso. The brayso says the following halacha, which is regarding the halacha of the yud ches davar, as we learned previous in this Masechta. There's 18 things that we said that has a tumah that the Rabbanan introduced, and one of them is v'hasefer. A sefer, kisvei kodesh, is metames yadayim, it contaminates the hands. So regarding the halacha of kisvei hakodesh, as it relates to tefillin, which is also considered kisvei kodesh, but time you learn the following brayso: ritzuas tefillin imat tefillin, the straps of the tefillin with the tefillin, metames yadayim is considered part of the tefillin, which the box is part of the parashas that's inside, which are kisvei kodesh. So regarding this halacha of truma, like the Gemara said in the Daf Yomi, regarding the Yud Ches Davar, the Shmoyne Esrei Davar, that straps of the tefillin, according to one opinion, is going to be included for that tumah. But says the first opinion, but the straps on their own, not connected to the bottom, that's not going to contaminate the hands. Shimon Yehuda and Mishum Shimon, he says a second opinion. He says no. No, if you touch the straps, even if it's attached to the tefillin, you're going to be tar because that's nothing about kisvei kodesh. Until you touch the actual box itself, what we call the batin, which is cut into 4 different compartments, because actually each compartment is called a bias. But the letters are inside that, so if you touch the tefillin itself, that would be considered as tumah, as touching kisvei kodesh. He says the third interpretation. There's no tar, it's going to be tar even if you touch the bottom. Until you touch the scroll itself. But one thing you see is that the scrolls inside the bottom are called mezuzah. So you see tefillin are called mezuzah. So that is a good resolution for the contradiction that, when we're saying that klav in this brayso is on the mount that you're at a mezuzah, it doesn't mean Shema Shema, it means tefillin, which the smallest one, the tefillin, is the parasha Shema. But the Gemara has a different difficulty. But when the Tani Sefer, but when we learn the end of that brayso, says klav, the parchment, is to lichtav lo parsha ktanish b'tefillin, which is to write the smallest parsha of the tefillin, shehi Shema Yisrael, which is Shema Yisrael. So machlal, the inference is the line read before that we read, the reisha, which says that and the amount of klaf and nechsusus is to the lichtav lo mezuzah, obviously is b'mezuzah asmaskin. Obviously, it must be the mezuzah itself, because when you really mean the tefillin, you say the tefillin. So therefore we have a contradiction, the Reish and the Sefer. The Reish is saying that the klaf is the amount of writing of the mezuzah with Shema and Shmaya. And then you say in the Sefer that no, the amount of klaf is to write the parsha of Shema. Says the Mahachitani. This is what the Bryce is saying, that's not a contradiction. You have to read it like this. Klaf and Duchsustas, it starts with talking about parchment and Duchsustas. And that we say that shiur, that the measurement of the 2 of them, each one individually, is bekamas how much. And it goes to explain in the Reisha, it's not explaining both. It's first explaining the chsustos, the inner part, that's the lift of mezuzah. That's not to write in the mezuzah, that's going on the chsustos, which is not fit to be used for tefillin. Then the Sefer goes to explain the klaf that of parchment, they look at the parchment, but tefillin, sheesh ma yisrael, if it's not difficulty. That idea about lift of mezuzah was not going on the klaf part. We mentioned in the beginning those 2 things, but really it's going only on that of the chsustos, and klaf is like we said in the Mishnah, which is that of writing the Parsha Shema Yisrael. Now the Gemara continues on this theme. Amar Rav. Rav says, and this is just, we have a picture of the klav, which is, that's the part that's the outer part, and the chsustis is on the inner part, which is actually, it actually depends, we'll see later on, if you actually switch it off and switch it around, regarding where you write it. But Amar Rav says the following halach. It says, Duchsustos harei keklaf. He says this very enigmatic statement, that the suchtus is like the klaf itself. Now, the Gemara assumes initially that this is what he means to say. What do you mean that the suchtus is like klaf? Ma klaf, just like the parchment. That's what we said in Allah of the Mishnah, that's what you write tefillin on. Af tuchsustus, also the tuchsustus, which is the inner part, that tuchsustus is kosher of tefillin, you can also write tefillin on that too. And that is the Gemara from Allah of the Mishnah. What do you mean? The Mishnah said, so now you learn klav, parchment, how much is the measurement? Is to lift the parsha ketana to write the small parsha of the tefillin. Shishma Yisrael, Shishma Yisrael. So as some Girsais have it, it's coming from a diak, which tells you, okay, klaf in, only parchment, D'chsustus loy. But d'chsustus is not something that you use to write tefillin on. In other words, it's not going to have such a small measurement to be able to write one parsha, which you use for the Shema. Rather, it's the shiur of writing two parshas of mezuzah. Because as Rashi explains, if the d'chsustus was viable for tefillin, then the measurement should have been the smaller measurement, which is the most stringent measurement, of that of tefillin, of one parsha. So that contradicts what Rav's saying. He says the d'chsustus is like klav, which means that you could write the tefillin on the d'chsustus, which is like on klav, but we see clearly that no, that the shiur beitzah is only that of mezuzah, and that the d'chsustus is not the shiur of tefillin. Obviously, you don't write tefillin on d'chsustus. So this Gemara, that's not difficult, because that is le mitzvah. That's only for mitzvah l'ketchila. The ideal mitzvah is that you need klav. Now, therefore, generally, we could presume that every single person tries to do the best type of mitzvah, and therefore he's not going to put away the d'chsustus for tefillin. So therefore, like Rashi says, it's like what the Mishnah previously qualified, eimatznin kamoy. It's not the amount, it's not the type of thing that's usually stored away for that utility. So essentially what the Gemara is answering is that really Rav is correct. The d'chsustus is like klav. If you want to write tefillin on the d'chsustus, which that is the inner part, then you could. But the reason why you're not going to be chayiv on Eitzah and Shabbos on the d'chsustus, the amount to write tefillin on, which is the one parasha of Shema, is because most people are not going to do that. It's imatz nikamot. Most people can do it on the more ideal one, the mitzvah getchila, on the klav, and then you're not going to be liable on the d'chsustus, on the smaller share of that like you have in klav. The thing about says Tashma, let's bring another raya. The halacha says halacha l'meishem Sinai. Halacha l'meishem Sinai is that tefillin ala klav, tefillin should be written on parchment, and this is the question that you see not on d'chsustus. Mezuzah d'chsustus, and mezuzah, that's written, those parashas that you put on the doorpost, that's taken from the d'chsustus, which is the inner part of the hide. So too, another qualification is klav, and this is the important halacha. Klav, it's the outer part of the hide. This, as we see the picture, you see this is the outer part of the animal, but actually you write it b'makom basar. The writing is not on the outer part of the hide; it's on the inner part, which faces towards the flesh, the inner part. The d'chsustus, which is the inner hide, that you write b'makom seir, that you write on the outer part of it. It's not really where the ear is, because this is on top of this, but it's the outer part towards facing the ear. One thing is that you see from this is that the halacha l'meishem Sinai tells us that only tefillin is on the klav and not on the d'chsustus. That contradicts Rav, who says that tefillin can be written on the d'chsustus too. Says the Gemara here also, no, it's lemitzvah, it's only lemitzvah l'ketchila. That's what it's telling us, that halacha l'meishem Sinai says you should write on klav, but it's still correct like Rav, that if you want to, you could go ahead and write on the d'chsustus too. But the Gemara says, but on the Brisa it says, if you deviate, if you change it, that puzzle, it's not a mistake, you see it's invalid. Says the Gemara, no, that's a mezuzah. That's talking about mezuzah, meaning if you write a mezuzah on parchment, that's going to be invalid. But tefillin, that doesn't have to be only on parchment, that could be also on d'chsustus. But the Gemara says, but another Brisa says, no. It says, shina bezeh ubezeh puzzle. It says, if you deviate by this one or by this one, it's going to be puzzle. Which seemingly is saying, tefillin or mezuzah, that you cannot write tefillin on d'chsustus. Says the Gemara, no, mezuzah, both this and that we said wasn't going this of tefillin and that of mezuzah. No, idi were both going bezeh was both going mezuzah. What's this and that? V'ha, one of them was telling you if techazvinu aklaf b'makom seir. If you write on the parchment, on the outer part of the parchment, which is the outer one, and for sure, like Rashi says, if you do on the inner part, because the halacha l'meishem Sinai is that the mezuzah always has to be in the outer part. We're saying if you write on the klav, that's going to be one psul regarding mezuzah. So that we knew regarding that. But inami, the other one, which we thought, okay, so that's talking about mezuzah the wrong way. Then we thought the other one is tefillin the wrong way. No, it's a different wrong way of mezuzah. Inami, or also it's d'chsustus. If let's say you do by d'chsustus, but you do b'makom basar, you do it on the inner part of the d'chsustus, that's going to be the invalidation because the mezuzah has to be, the d'chsustus has to be on the outer part of it. And therefore, if you do in the inner part, that's the second invalidation. The shina bezeh is not tefillin and mezuzah. No, tefillin could be on the d'chsustus. It's on mezuzah. There's two different ways you could do it wrong. You could either do it on the klav, either b'makom basar or b'makom seir, either one is wrong, or on the d'chsustus b'makom basar. Those are two invalidations. That's one approach. Or says the Gemara, if you want, you could actually say a different approach. That you're right. That Brisa that says shina bezeh is going on tefillin and mezuzah. So doesn't that contradict Rav? Because it's saying that tefillin is not okay putting on d'chsustus. Says the Gemara, you're right. That Tana would not be like him. But shina bezeh tanoi, changing the tefillin and the mezuzah to the wrong one is a machlekes tanoi. The Tana, even the Brisa and Rav would be like the other Tana. How so? The Brisa says shina bezeh, if you change the tefillin onto the chsustas, or the mezuzah onto cloth. So the Tanna Kamma says possibly going to be invalid. So that's like the Tanna who doesn't hold like it. But Rabbi Acha Machshir says it is valid. And he says it's Mishum Rabbi Achi Bar Chanina. Normally some say he says it's Mishum Rabbi Yaakov Bar Chanina. But one thing is, the way Rashi explains this is that Rab would explain this halacha of Rabbi Achi on tefillin. The tefillin is kosher when you change it, that you write on the chsustas, that he says is kosher. Rav holds like him. So therefore, that's like Rav's opinion that he says that the chsustas are reikah cloth. Just like cloth is kosher for tefillin, so there's the chsustas. Or another Tanoic source says the Gemara that you could say is Rav Papa. He says Rav the Amar Ketana be Menashe. Rav is actually like a different Tana. He's like Tana be Menashe. Tana be Menashe. He says Kasva alan yar. If you write it on paper, which in the Talmudic times it was papyrus, so we write it. It would be made out of grass, or valamatlis on a cloth. So psul it's invalid. It doesn't tell us yet what we're talking about, but it's saying if you write it on paper on the cloth, it's going to be invalid. Ala cloth on parchment. Vala gvil, which we said gvil has already been processed with the gallnuts, but like we said from Taisus, it wasn't yet split into two like we have regarding the cloth and the chsustas, or val the chsustas or on the chsustas. Sharing is going to be the main part that you see on the chsustas is going to be valid. But first the Gemara says, Ksavamai, what are we talking about? What are you writing that you tell me if you're writing this thing is going to be valid? Ilema mezuzah, if you think it's referring to mezuzah, cloth mikas vina, do you write mezuzah on the parchment? No, up until now we were presuming that mezuzah is not valid on parchment, it's only valid in the chsustas. Say, obviously we're talking about tefillin. And we're saying that not only is tefillin kosher on parchment, it's even going to be kosher on, what was one of the cases, was d'chsustas. So you see like Ram, that d'chsustas are reikah cloth, that tefillin's going to be kosher on that. And therefore that's a Tanaic source for Ram. So the Gemara rejects this source. Because it says, what? Well, Tamech, according to your reasoning, if it's talking about tefillin, so one of the cases that it said that's valid on was gvil. Gvil mikasvina. Can you write on gvil? No, you cannot. Gvil is when it wasn't separated into two. Tefillin is only valid either on the cloth or on the chsusas, but not when it's that whole unit, which is what's called gvil. So Ella Rabda says the Gemara, obviously Kitani, when we looked at Bryce, it was actually talking about the Sefer Torah. So we're going to get Sefer Torah, and there was no raya. Because you're not pre no raya that one could be on the chsustas. We're talking about Sefer Torah. Sefer Torah can be written on gvil, on the chsustas, and all these different things on parchment, and there was no raya. So the Gemara says, okay, but still, let me say, yeah, let's try to bring support for Rav from the following Bryce. The Reisha that Bryce is discussing regarding the tefillin shel yad, that the tefillin shel yad, that one could go ahead and make tefillin shel reish out of those tefillin shel yad. But the tefillin shel reish, you cannot make tefillin shel yad out of that. Why is that? Because you cannot downgrade. Meaning, if you're taking tefillin shel yad, it's an upgrade to be tefillin shel reish, which is considered more chashuv tefillin. Tefillin shel reish, you can't downgrade to make it tefillin shel yad. And that's what the Brisa continues. It says, "Kiyitz similarly, tefillin shel bala, tefillin that got worn out, or Sefer Torah shel bala, or Sefer Torah that got worn out." So the halacha is you cannot cut out pieces from the parchment where you have the parasha shemam and shemaya inside of it to go ahead and establish it. Ain't no yisim mezuzah. You can't make a mezuzah out of it. You can't cut out those parashas and make a mezuzah. Why not? You can't downgrade a Sefer Torah, a film that consider a higher level sanctity than mezuzah. So although let's say you can't use the Sefer Torah anymore and you're going to be buried, you say, hey, let's just cut out these parashas, use it for mezuzah. You're not allowed to do that because they're downgrade. But one thing says the Gemara is, okay, you tell me the one reason why you can't do it is time at the Ima read, but you're not downgrade. How am I reading? But let's say you were allowed to downgrade. Sounds like icing that you could do that. The problem is, but the chsiva, this that you wrote these tefillin, amai, what did you write on, what type of leather did you write these tefillin on? Lav the chsiva duchsustas, obviously it's that you wrote it on duchsustas, because you tell me you could use it on mezuzah, mezuzah can only be written on duchsustas. So obviously that if you would be able to downgrade, you'd be able to do that, that you see like Rav, that you could write tefillin on duchsustas, and that's why you would think that you could use it for mezuzah. Says the Gemara, no. The chsiva al klaf is talking about that you wrote it on the parchment. Says the Gemara, wait a second. So how does that help? If you're writing on parchment, that would be only good for the first part, for the tefillin part. But how's that going to work? But a mezuzah aklaf mikasvinon? But how could you write a mezuzah on parchment? You can't. So how could you, even if you're allowed to downgrade, how would you be able to use those worn out tefillin for mezuzah? Says the Gemara, yes. But Tanya has written in the Bryce. Bryce says ksava ala klaf. Here also, it doesn't say exactly what we're talking about, but it's referring to the mezuzah. Ksava ala klaf, if you write it on parchment, al paper, alamatlis on a cloth, okay, so that's invalid. But Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, he said, Remeir, how you crease Remeir would write the tefillin on parchment, not on the chsustas, because that would last a long time. Parchment lasts longer, and then you write the mezuzah on the parchment. So you see clearly that Remeir held that you could write it on parchment, and therefore that resolves the difficulty that yes, if you're allowed to be downgraded, you'll be able to use the tefillin, which is Rav's halacha, that you could write tefillin on the chsustas, and then you'll be able to use, it's actually on klav, if it's not a raya to Rav, and therefore, that you'd be able to use that for mezuzah. But the Gemara says, wait a second, what you just said to reject the raya for Rav from that Tana, actually, hashtas lachi, now that you came to that, then you said that, but in your rejection, you had to explain how could you use the worn out tefillin for mezuzah. If you're telling me that tefillin cannot be in the chsustas, you tell me it's on klav. Well, how can you use mezuzah? Because mezuzah is supposed to be on klav. Oh, so you took away one raya for Rav, but actually now that you explained that mezuzah can be written on klav, so actually l'Rav Nami, now we can have a whole new reinterpretation of Rav's halacha that it's not difficult, and that is loitem. Don't say in the statement of Rav of the chsustus harei klav. Don't say that he said that the chsustus is like klav, meaning that just like klav you could write tefillin on. So to write tefillin on d'chsustus, Elema rather say the opposite. He was saying klav harei d'chsustus. Parchment is like d'chsustus, not d'chsustus like klav, but klav like d'chsustus, which would say the opposite halacha. Ma d'chsustus, just like d'chsustus. Mezuzah. Then we know you're allowed to write the mezuzah on that piece of the leather of klav. So to the parchment, mezuzah. You can write the mezuzah on the parchment just like you can write it on the chsustas, which as Tesis brings from the Ri. The teaching of Rav was said unspecified in the Beis Medrash. His teaching was said that parchment and the chsustas are the same. Initially, the Gemara thought to say, okay, that was in reference to tefillin, and that the Gemara doesn't understand until the conclusion it's referring to mezuzah. And this we taught a brisa previously. If Shini B'Zev says possible, based on what the Gemara is saying now, it's obviously not mezuzah, because mezuzah is actually, you could do either one. It's actually going on tefillin. But that's why we first initially thought he was saying that mezuzah is like klav. Then we say, no, he really said klav is like the chsustas. That the tefillin, that the mezuzah, just like you can write it on the chsustas, you can write it on that of the mezuzah. So some of these we spoke about in today's Daf, Shabbos Daf, Ayin Test, was we had the halacha of the Mishnah, which we discussed on different types of items. One of them being that of hide. So that's the amount that you can make a kamei. You can make an amulet. That's the smallest thing you take a piece of hide for how many times to put in that lachash living inside of it. That minimum is the minimum of hide. Now, so too regarding being ma'abed, which is also one of the lamates malachas of ma'abed, which is tanning a piece of leather. What's going to be considered, if you're tanning it, to be considered a significant act? It's also the shiur of a kamei. So too, if someone's taking out, even if it wasn't tan, but it just is oimid, it's destined to be tan. And the Gemara said even one step more. Shmuel didn't really verify exactly how it is. Even if it's not oimid, it's not destined for even, it's that type of a material, which if it would be destined, would be having that shiur, even if it's not destined. And the Gemara says we learned this concept that if something is oimid, it has that shiur. The Mishnah later on. The Mishnah tells us regarding malabin, regarding menapids, whitening and disentangling, regarding that of the tzemra of the wool. So we said that since those things, that's what the Gemara explains, since they're oimid for tefiyah, since they're destined to be spinning, meaning why are you whitening this thing? Why are you disentangling it? For spinning? Therefore it has the same shiur as the sit kafel, as the tefiyah. That's why it has the same shiur, because it's oimid lekaf. And if that's the same thing here regarding the hide, since it's destined for that, it has the same halacha. Now, but then we had a few different questions, three different cases, that we see that there is a difference regarding what we would call the before and after of the processing. We see that there is a discrepancy because we find that there's, let's say, by the saman, the herbs, we said there is a difference if it was soaked or not. So too by the garden seeds, we say there's a difference if it was planted or not, different shiur. We said regarding the clay, there's a difference if it was kneaded or not. That the Gemara says, all those cases, lefisha ein odem terech. A person's not going to go through the effort to go do that. Meaning, by leather, it is significant. A person would go through the effort. So therefore, the kamei is going to be whether it was tanned or not. There, the reason why there's a difference is because, okay, I'm not going to go through the effort for that, and therefore there's a discrepancy, but that doesn't contradict Allah what's saying regarding the leather. Then we said, I tried to make a raya that we had by matzah. Matzah is that it's totally untreated, like the way matzah is totally bland, untreated piece of hide. So he said that the measurement, the shiur, is different than that of our Mishnah, which is treated. We see that that's a kameya, and here it's something of the mishkailas. You see that it is a different shiur. That's the Gemara. You're right. If it was dry, it would have the same shiur because it could be tanned. Here, we're talking about what we call bishula, which is still wet. It's still wet. It's not even rolled the kach, so it's not like destined. Therefore, that's why it has a different shiur. Then we had a different contradiction. We said in the Mishnah that ha'or that's not treated. The Mishnah Masechtas Kalim, measurement is 5 tfachim, not the shear of a kameya. So it's the Gemara, a similar type of answer. This is talking about kurtavla, where the leather was boiled. Once it's boiled, it's not fit. It's einay row to be ma'abed, and therefore that's why it's not going to be the shear. But if it would be fit, then it would have the shear even before it's tan. When we continue the halacha of the Mishnah, we spoke about regarding parchment. We said that in the Mishnah, we said that's the shear writing the smallest parchment in film is parsha of Shema, and we said regarding the chsustus, that's regarding writing the parsha the parsha of mezuzah, which is Shema, and a little bit bigger, it's v'haya im Shemaya. Now we actually had a machlekes that was brought parenthetical regarding the tumah of tefillin. Is it regarding even the straps? Is it only the bottom? Or is it actually only the parsha itself? The reason why I brought it in because we called it the mezuzah, and that was for one of the Gemara's types of answers to say that the parchment of the tefillin actually would be called a mezuzah. And the Gemara concluded basically with two different versions in the halacha of Rav. Is he saying the chsustis is like klaf, which would tell you that just like you could write the tefillin on the klaf, so too it's kosher on the chsustis, so that's in regards to tefillin. Or the second version was that no, it's actually klaf kedechsustis. That was in regards to mezuzah. That he was saying that just like mezuzah is kosher on the chsustis, so too it's kosher on the klaf. Thank you for any time. To hosting us.